Welcome, and thank you for joining me on the Path of the Seeker. Today we are going to go through and analyze the symbols associated with the Pisces new moon. I'm going to explain how I determined those symbols, and we are going to then do a purification ceremony. Now, in the new moon, this is the divine masculine phase of the moon cycle. And what we are doing when we work with astrology and doing these ceremonies is we are working with the wheels within wheels of divine order. If you choose to believe that there is a one creator or source, all that is, then it goes naturally that there was a purpose for the reason why the planets were aligned the way that they are. There is a reason why they don't have just a gravitational pull, but also an energetic pull on us. You can look at the planets as having different personalities and as people. That's usually what people do. However, I see them a little bit more like archetypes that are thoughts in the mind of God, or the chakras of this particular galaxy, since our chakras align with the chakras of the different planets. There are different interpretations regarding which planets are assigned to which chakras. I have my own. You can actually see that in previous videos, but I may cover them over many ceremonies. So the symbolism that I always start off with in my blog is the actual astrology. And for someone who's into symbolism, astrology is brilliant. It is all symbols. When you look at an astrological chart, that's all you see are symbols and numbers. And it's literally a wheel within a wheel. So the 7 planets travel through the 12 zodiac signs. The 12 zodiac signs could be interpreted as the hero's journey in Joseph Campbell's theory about the hero's journey, which people use to write stories. And I have actually covered that in a different video on my channel if you want to look it up. And the planets travel through these different signs and the different phases of the hero's journey. And so you can actually look at astrology from that perspective as well. Most people look at it either from the medieval, ancient perspective prior to the outer planets after Saturn, or previous to the outer planets after Saturn being found, as Neptune and Pluto and Uranus are all new planets compared to the ancients. And the planets were originally called wanderers because they wandered the sky, unlike the fixed stars. And of course, in modern times, we've taken that term planets and we've assigned it to physical bodies, and we've said the sun's a star and a moon's a moon. We've gotten much more technical than watching spheres of light travel through our hemisphere or travel above our hemisphere in the night sky. So when I look at the astrology, I see it a bit different from other astrologers because I'm looking only for symbolism. I'm not getting into the technical stuff, although I do like the technical stuff. And one thing I look at is we know that our Pisces new moon, our new moon and our sun are in Pisces, as in any new moon. This is their monthly kiss that they share. But this new moon cycle will culminate, or this moon cycle will culminate with our full moon in Virgo. So we know that based on what we do now, we're going to have actions that we are going to take. Virgo is the little worker of the zodiac. I always think of David Palmer and how he talks about the vacuum and how Virgos like vacuums, which I can confirm. I have two daughters with strong Virgo placements, and they love their little toy vacuums and love whenever mom vacuums the house. So in Pisces, you can see you have 1, 2, 3, 4 planets. Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces, so he's in his power. So Pisces is amped up as Pisces can get at this time because Neptune is in there. He'll be in that sign for quite a bit while longer. Venus is very, very fast. She goes through all the signs every year, and she's at the final degree of Pisces, which is always considered at her peak, and she's exalted in Pisces. She brings a beautiful, loving energy to Pisces. So we know that the depositor of this moon, the person who owns the sign, which is Neptune, is there, and they're really energetically hyping it up. And then you have the sun and the moon. This moon represents our subconscious. The sun represents our conscious mind. And so when these two are together, it's like the alchemical marriage, which you heard me mention with the meditation on Pisces. Our subconscious and our conscious are working together. And that's why this is a fertile time to set intentions. It is a time of action, like I said, and working with the divine masculine of air, the intellect, and fire, which is action. And we always take actions on the physical plane. That's why we use tools. That's why we do ceremony, to set our intentions, because it grounds it into reality. I've read somewhere, and I don't remember where it was, but unless it happens on Earth, it doesn't get added to our Akashic record. And our Akashic record is like this vast library. It's our book of life, if you read the Bible, where all of our deeds and all of our thoughts are recorded. But it's only if we actually take action on this physical plane of existence that it really means anything. And that's why souls incarnate, is because what happens here in the body is reality. You can think in your imagination a scenario and what you would do 1,000,000 times, but until you're actually in the scenario, you don't know what you would do. You know, in your mind, you might think you're a hero, but you might be confronted with like a carjacking, and the first thing you do instead of confronting the person who's carjacking is run the heck away. Or you might think that you'd run the heck away, and instead of running away, you actually fight back. These are all options that, are living in your imagination until it actually comes into reality. And until you actually deal with it in reality, you don't know what you're going to do and what the true quality of your character is. And the same thing goes for the soul. And so that's why we work with these energies here, is we're aligning ourselves in our will, we're submitting it to the all that is source, one creator. And we're saying, not my will, but thine. At the same time, because we are in the active phase of the moon, we are saying our prayers. This is the time of prayer. The full moon in Virgo will be our time of meditation when we're more receptive. And it's very interesting because Pisces, being a water sign, which symbolizes the feminine, is a receptive sign. So we're working in a receptive sign in an active fashion. But that is actually a very good thing, because once again, Pisces pretty much represents the ultimate subconscious. It could be the collective unconscious, the absolute unbounded oneness, that oneness mentality that all of us go back to, and that quite honestly you can tune in even now, where you sense that you are at one with nature. And that's one of the great things to do, is to go out into nature. When you're walking through trees and you have a brook nearby, and you just feel at peace and at one with nature. And we want to bring that into our average, mundane life. That peace, that wonder, that magic. So let me look at what I wanted to point out here. So we have Jupiter conjunct, we're very close to, it's not conjunct because it's 9 and 13 degrees. Jupiter and Chiron are very close to each other in Aries. Jupiter is the original ruler of Pisces. So it's also important to find that out. In the medieval ages, Jupiter would be the one that we would look at. And Chiron is the wounded healer. So Jupiter is expansion. And so what we have here is expansion of healing in Aries, which is a sign of initiation. We also have this new moon at 1 degrees, which is also a sign of a new start, a new initiation. And that is the energy that we are coming into when we go into March. Is we're coming into a lot of new energy. It's going to be a push forward. It's going to be like a wave. And it's just going to finally move us out of this pandemic mode that we have been in since Saturn first entered its sign of Capricorn. I will do a whole video on that and my interpretation of it, and really kind of looking back at what it meant as opposed to what people thought. Same with Pluto in Capricorn. We're going to look at those phases. Since Capricorn, or Pluto, goes through a sign about 15 to 20 years, Saturn is far more fast. He goes through a sign in about 2 years. And I also want to mention in Aries with Chiron and Jupiter is the planet Eris. She goes much, much faster, or much, much slower. She's very, very slow. She's been in Aries. She'll be in Aries until 2056. So she is coming to the final degrees, but she is a very, very slow moving outer planet. So we have that Eris energy, and Eris is the shadow. She is the rejected feminine, the rejected part of the feminine, and she is absolutely the shadow. And it is perfect that she came into discovery within the 2000s in Aries, and shadow work has been a huge, huge theme. I don't think anybody in the spiritual community hasn't heard about healing their shadow at this point. And that's fantastic. It's a beautiful thing that people are doing that. And they're not afraid of it. When I was first making videos and first doing my blog, really, what promoted me to do my blog is I saw so many fear-based people out there talking and sharing their information and their interpretation, and that's really changed. People are more hopeful, and we need hope right now more than anything. We have been living for 4 years in a world that has had a strong Saturn influence, and so all that is about to change. So this is a really wonderful new moon. There are, what you can see here, are some red lines. There are not many red lines. I've seen charts with a lot more. These are tense aspects. They're squares and that sort of thing. And this one, you do see that Uranus and Pluto are at odds with one another. But chaos and death, disagreeing is probably a good thing. It means they're not colluding with one another at the moment. So that is all I wanted to say about that. So yeah, we have the next thing we're going to go to. We looked at our zodiac signs, so we know what energies are coming from the celestial spheres, what planets and energies we are working with. Again, it's beautiful. Venus and Neptune are gorgeous planets. They are very dreamy, and Pisces is very, very dreamy. Next, one of the things that I actually forgot to do, we're going to move briskly through all this. One, because my kids should be up soon, but also because this is the active masculine. This is not a time of meditation, although you could say this is an active meditation. This is more of a time of action and moving quickly. What I forgot to share in my Pisces video, and I forgot to share a lot of things because my husband came in and started making a lot of noise, and because one other thing, which I'll cover in just a moment, was really funny. I find it very amusing anyway. So I wanted to share this book. This is a dream dictionary. I've had this since I was 13. This is absolutely the best dream dictionary out there. I think you can get it used still on Amazon. It's amazing. But I wanted to share from the dream dictionary, which talks about archetypes. I wanted to share what the fish symbol, a fish in your dream, means. And it says, fish, 12th sign of the zodiac, Pisces, the Christ within. The size, color, and looks of a fish often represent the dreamer's present spiritual evolution, as does the size of the body of water, ocean, sea, lake, river, well, swimming pools, or any body of water. I think that sums up Pisces perfectly. You're spiritual evolution. But it's also very much, like I said, that oneness ocean. And when I think of Pisces, I always think of the, how do I say it? The Carl Jung quote where he says that the mystic swims in the water in which the psychotic drowns. And that is Pisces. That is oneness. When you are working with that oneness energy and you're tapped into it and your shadow hasn't been acknowledged and you haven't worked with your shadow, what happens is that all of those fears come bubbling to the surface. And you can see that with a lot of people who are starting to study spirituality, get into spirituality. All this fear of the unknown and the unseen comes up, and a lot of superstition and just a lot of fear. So when you first encounter the oneness of that, or if you have like a spiritual encounter with something like a ghost or a spirit or anything of that matter, people will just go, whoa, and it's a big creepy thing, and it gives you goosebumps. And it's great to be interested in the realm of spirit and the unseen universal forces because you have an experience. But the last thing you need to do is fear them. And there's so much information. And so much information nowadays that the last thing you should have is fear. But like I said, many people are working with their shadow these days, and it's beautiful. So the next thing I want to share, and the symbolism, is the indigenous moon for this moon. And I follow the indigenous spiritual practices much. My grandfather grew up on the Morongo Reservation. He's indigenous California, which is called Kauai. And if you want to see my genetics, weird as they are on my blog. You're just going to have to go back. I think I posted that back in 2016-ish. That was a while ago. But I do work with the actual moon, and the indigenous are a matriarchal culture. They are focused on the moon, and I think everybody knows for the most part that once upon a time all of us were on a moon-based calendar system instead of a sun-based calendar system. And I don't judge either. I work with both. But I think it's very important to know what the indigenous have to say and how they approach the moon. Now, each tribe does call the moon different things, and so the book that I am working with is The Path of the Medicine Wheel by Kathy L. Callahan, PhD. And it goes through, and each moon is described as being in what direction on the medicine wheel. This one is in one of the moons of the north. There's 3 moons to each direction of the medicine wheel. And this one is the strong winds moon. And she has the approximate dates. You can see that here. These are the approximate dates of the different moons. So I simply look up, and we're on 19th February, so it's strong winds moon. And then she has in here the information about it. So this is the 3rd moon of the north when the winds blow strong and fast, signaling the change which is soon to come as life prepares to leave the silent contemplation of winter and burst forth with the new life of spring. Of course, someone's going to be outside working on their yard, right? The plant of strong winds moon is butterfly weed, a relative of dandelion. Butterfly weed is also known as milkweed. So she gives you a herb to work with for the moon. And then she also includes a stone to work with it. And then she explains that each person, based on what indigenous moon you are born under, have certain personality traits. And the people of strong winds moon often feel more comfortable with the spirit realm than with the physical plane. Like the chrysalis, they find the hidden mystic realm more comforting than the outside world. If they are well grounded, they have the ability to be powerful shamans and travel between the 2 worlds. Without that grounding, however, they can become trapped in a sea of turbulent emotion and have difficulty connecting with others in this world. And so we can tell that even in the indigenous traditions, when it comes to this time period, it is the time period of the mystic. And the mystic is someone who enjoys that oneness, who can tap into that oneness of Pisces and feels more comfortable with that than the human realm. The next thing that I wanted to share with you, and I did want to say that eventually I will be working with the herbs from that book, but right now I was working with an herb that Ashley Ellen Boss from Sky House Herbs suggested. She and her husband, who's an astrologer, she's an herbalist, and she has a wonderful channel. She and her husband, who's an astrologist, are doing a Roots and Spheres course. I'm not participating in it, but she mentioned what they're using for it, and it is astrological magic like this, and they are using Damiana leaf, and I got some to participate out of curiosity. And this, I drank this right before doing the Pisces meditation, and boy, whew, the mirth and laughter. I mean, this tea is joy in a cup, but I haven't laughed so hard, and I was in tears when my husband came in and started making noises, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to do this video, and it's kind of ASMR style, so I'm trying to be chill and kind of use sounds. The last thing anybody wants to hear is mechanical clicking in the background. So I did want to explain that about the Pisces meditation, and again, why I kind of ended that abruptly. But all of this is experimental. I'm getting back into the rhythm. I'm doing something different than I did before. The PowerPoint type presentations that I did previously that were very academic, very left brain, very analytic, I will get back to those when things are a little bit more normal in my house. My 1-year-old is just now starting to sleep through the night, and those videos take a lot of time, so possibly in the years to come. And I have many things planned for those, but I'm not going to get into that now because we're going through briskly our symbols and the symbolism of this Pisces new moon. The next book that we are going to look at is Kabbalistic Astrology, and this is by Rabbi Joel C. Dobin. I love this book. I can get lost in reading this, and all these books are ones that I can read over and over again. What we are looking for is the Hebrew letter associated with this time period, this new moon. And he has a chart here at the end, and I look at this every month. And we are over here. So it is Quf, or Q. It's associated with sleep, which I will mention again. It is the below south direction. And of course we have the sign for Pisces. And again, February 19th and March 21st. And so we know the Hebrew letter associated with this time period is Quf. And so I go from this book to the Hebrew alphabet. And I'm working with the Hebrew Alphabet, A Mystical Journey by Edward Hoffman. And this beautiful artwork in it, the different letters. And we're going to look at what Quf says. And I'm probably mispronouncing that. I did not grow up Jewish, but I am of Jewish descent, which is still amusing to me. Composed intriguingly of the letters Zain and Resh, Quf begins the Hebrew word Kedusha, referring to holiness and sanctification. In Jewish mysticism, we have countless opportunities in daily life to experience the divine presence. In this light, the Zohar affirms, whoever makes an effort to purify himself receives assistance from above. And there are many prophets and characters within the Bible that started with their name started with Quf. The Kabbalah, which is what we study, which means to receive or has been received, starts with Quf. And It is a receptive letter. And each of these letters are considered to have their own personality. You can't see it too much here, but almost all of them have like a candlestick and then a flame. And they all have their own personalities, and some of them even look like different characters. They're doing things. And it is known as the language of the flame or light. So it makes sense that they all have like a candlestick and a flame. All right, I'm back. I apologize. My eldest daughter woke up. I took the opportunity to fix myself some coffee as well. You know that you're loved when a Starbucks barista, or former Starbucks barista, puts off being caffeinated in the morning for you. So now that I have my liquid fuel, my poison of choice, as I like to say, the next thing we're going to move on is to the Thursday Night Tarot by Jason C. Lauderhand. This was actually a course taught at a school. I want to say it was Berkeley. And we're going to go to the back of the book, to the index. And you'll be able to tell this book has been well loved and read by me many, many times. I open it every new moon. And so we're looking for Kuf, Hebrew. And it says, back of the head, letter associated with key 18, the moon. And that brings us to the tarot card associated with Kuf. And it's actually the Pisces tarot card. I'm going to put it right here. And the moon is a beautiful symbol. There's so much to the tarot cards that Paul Foster Case and even A.E. Waite created back during what was a huge movement, because Edgar Cayce was also doing his work about the same time. So the 1930s, as far as I'm concerned, was a great time of awakening. These were the people who were just starting out to do the awakening business. They were just starting to talk about the age of Aquarius, which I know a lot of people are over at this point, and it really doesn't kick into gear until I think 2200 something. But we are on that precipice, and it was in the 1930s that they really started talking about that age, and there's a lot of prophecies. I am very, very much into prophecies, and there's a psychic that once worked with Colette Baron Reed. I can't think of her name right now, but she has a book. I'll share it when we talk about Pluto entering Aquarius. But the prophecies all point to this being a time, and it's not just the prophecies. It's not like just one prophecy. It's a bunch, including the Hopi have a wonderful, beautiful prophecy about it. And the 1930s when they really started to get into that. And it wasn't until a little bit later, like Jamie Sams, my favorite indigenous author, she in the 90s started sharing the indigenous secrets, the spirituality. And just an FYI, a lot of people say shaman when they think of the indigenous of the Americas. That's a South American term. The North American term for a mystic is a dreamer. They are medicine people and they're dreamers. And my grandfather was known as the Dreamer of Muscoy. So the two labels that I'll accept in the spiritual community is mystic and dreamer, although you could call me all kinds of different things like a symbolist. But let's get into the moon card. There is so much going on here, and I did break out my generic Chinese knockoff brand tarot card that I bought for I am going through and I'm working through the symbolism of all of the tarot cards as a series on my blog, and I'm going to bring that to this channel as well. And I'm comparing the symbolism from the spiritual community of today to the community of Paul Foster Case, Edgar Cayce, A.E. Waite. Now, I think it's important to note that Waite was part of a secretive order. I've got a siren going right now. White was a part of a secretive order, so he couldn't give away all the secrets. I've never joined an order. If I was going to, it would be the Rosicrucians. But secret societies are not my thing. I'm not a joiner. Although I will admit I belong to the Edgar Casey ARE and to High Vibe. Those are the two things I've kind of joined in the spiritual community. And Edgar Casey showed up as my guide, which I will show you in a future video when I was 13, when really I just had the Dream Symbols book, which is not even by the ARE, and another book on prophecy that my dad had been given by someone that he once worked with that he thought was crazy. So those were the only two references I had to Edgar Casey, and he just popped up as one of my guides when I was 13. And he showed up for my past life regression when I went for one in person. So I have a deep connection to him. Never explored it. But I do really love Edgar Casey and his work because he was dedicated in the same way that I am, that do no harm. And that should be the motto of all spiritual people. And that's why you have to practice discernment on the path of the seeker. And when we're seeking the divine. We're seeking to align with divine. We're seeking truth. Truth is very rare. There is very, very little universal truth. And that's why man has created so many laws. And, in the Hebrew tradition, they're known as the people of the book or the people of the law. And they have made so many laws. They're very much like the United States, where we have tons and tons of laws. And you can't even keep a track of all the laws on the different levels. But I've digressed. We're not supposed to be doing meditation. We're supposed to be doing the active symbolism interpretation. And so with the moon, we have a depiction of the path of the seeker. Here we have the ocean of oneness at the bottom. You can see it a little bit more clearly in this one with the blue. I had to get the holographic version because I always have to do something different. I didn't want boring cards. And we have a crustacean coming up and out of the water. And that crustacean represents us when we're first emerging. We have this tendency to feel like the world is a tough place and we need this big ego construction, goggles, if you will, is something that Bashar once taught. The ego is a pair of goggles that we wear when we come into the physical material reality, and we think we need it because we think that we're, threatened and it's survival of the fittest and all of that. So we come out of the ocean of oneness as this crustacean coming into what we think is a hostile world. And we start off on the path of the seeker. And there's many highs and many lows, as you can tell. But we then pass through the rocks here, represent the mineral world. The vegetation represents the plant world. And that ties in perfectly with the Hopi and indigenous traditions. Because they say that we first incarnated as minerals. And Edgar Casey says something very similar too, is when we first came into physical material reality, we incarnated as the gases, and then we became minerals, and then we became plants. We were experimenting with feeling the different sensations and having the different experiences, and we just pushed ourselves into matter, actually forcing the process of evolution on this planet, according to Edgar Casey. And like I said, it's in perfect alignment with the ages that the indigenous of North America describe. First the age of the mineral, then the age of the plant. We've explored both of those even in our human bodies. And the age of Aquarius we're currently in the age of the animal. And here we have the animals here. We have a domesticated dog here and a wolf here. Wolf is that, they represent the untamed, wild nature. This would also be very connected to the subconscious, our animal nature, which is very much the aspect that is our shadow. And we have to embrace our animal body and our shadow to become the domesticated dog, the mind that is been trained. So we go from the wild mind. In the Buddhist tradition, they call it the monkey mind, to the domesticated mind, which is the mind of the human. And the age of the Aquarius is supposed to be the age of the human. And then as we go further, you can see the path goes all the way up a mountain. And at the top of that mountain is the hermit. And he's the one who's shining the light for us through the darkness as we travel the path of the seeker. And as we go higher, or further along the path, we go higher. And so we may go from a depressed state or a state of sadness and eventually reach, as we go further on the path, those states are fewer and far between. And I can say for myself, I was very depressed as a teenager. I've gone through, I'm basically a dark night pro, when it comes to the dark night of the soul, I'm a pro at it. I can bounce back from setbacks almost immediately now. Never been happier. And it wasn't something like overnight I just changed. It was dramatic and I knew the difference. Instead, it was just one day I was like, wow, I'm so happy. And it's been a long time since I've been sad or depressed. And I realized that the state of mind that I was in had changed. And it was just little incremental changes as I walked the path of the seeker. And I found the answers that I wanted to find. And that is one of my main messages, is the answers are out there. They're known. They have been known. They've been explored since the 1930s, even older than that. The West really got into mysticism again in the 1800s with the spiritualist movement. It's a fascinating thing to study. But we've had a very interesting evolution as humans. And this, the moon card, which is the card of Pisces, shows that evolution. And it is also card 18 in the tarot. And 18 is 1 plus 8, that's 9, that's completion energy. And this new moon is really closing the door on a lot of old energy, because this is the moon cycle where we're going to have Pluto go into Aquarius for the first time, although it will retrograde back into Capricorn. But we also have Saturn going into Pisces, and it's finally going to not be in a sign that it rules, so it's not going to be at its full strength and power and influence on the earth, which is fantastic, and I'm so excited about that. And I'm very excited about both of those planets changing signs. It's not negative in any shape or form. And anyone who works with it and says it's negative or it's fear-based or it's the event, I had another encounter with someone with the shiny eyes. You're like, the event, it's going to happen in March. It's not going to be negative. Negative things are part of the path, but whatever happens is going to be necessary for our evolutionary growth. And I think all of us kind of want to move on from the pandemic vibe. So we are going to go into my last symbol that I am working with for this moon cycle. And now you know why I choose specific tarot cards. They don't always align with the zodiac season, so this is a rarity. But our symbol, I pulled this from the Brian Froud Oracle card set. It was the first Oracle card set that I received when I was 14. It's interesting because when I turned 14, it seems to be coming up a lot. I'm sure I will go into that a little bit more in the Pluto video. But this is himself. Himself is the king of the forest. And you can see he has an activated heart chakra, brow chakra, and crown chakra, which is perfect. And this is a very earthy energy, which is very nice. It's very protective. The card number is 17, which is 8, which is reciprocal energy. So we know that spirit is working with us this new moon cycle. I always use an oracle card to find out what basically spirit's saying. And this card is like, I've got your back. You're going to go through some rough times. It's emotional. I'm a double Capricorn. Capricorns don't like emotions. Even though I'm a Cancer sun, it's all about emotions. I don't like emotions. So Pisces season always kind of like, oh my goodness, for me. So drawing himself, knowing that's a grounded card. It's a ground of protection. It's a card of protection. It's, a loving card. And again, it's that heart, third eye, and crown chakra working together. The crown chakra is your connection to divinity. The third eye chakra is your perception of reality. And it's funny, I watched a astrology video by El Natal, who I just started recently watching. I like her pop culture references. She mentioned the third eye, and I guess all the pop culture astrologers are talking about your third eye is going to be blown wide open by this Pisces new moon because Venus and Neptune are in the sign and this is pure Pisces or something. The third eye is just perception and clear seeing. It's clairvoyance. It's all the clairs exist within your third eye. And when you work with it, and the main thing is that you have to work with your shadow, because the first thing when you try to work with third eye chakra is going to be your shadow. You're going to encounter that first. And that's either going to scare you to death and you're going to run away, or you're going to acknowledge your shadow and start working through all the stuff that comes up. And all this stuff is going to come up from the past lives, it's going to come up from your childhood. And the two words that come to mind to work with the shadow that are so important is gratitude and forgiveness. And those are the two keys to working with your third eye chakra. If you can't find forgiveness in your heart and you can't find gratitude for even your enemies who've taught you something, then you probably aren't going to be very far on the mystic path in this life. It's just a fact. I've been broken down. My ego's been broken down so many times with Dark Nights of the Soul that at this point, the only thing that's really kind of left is joy and curiosity. Things happen that are bad. I'm like, this is very curious. I wonder what lesson I'm going through now. And usually it actually corresponds to the astrology, and it'll correspond to the oracle cards that I pull. And I love that. I love that everything is connected. So we're going to create our grid. Again, we're crystallizing the energy of our intentions with this new moon by creating this grid. And each stone is chosen specifically to work with the energy, to symbolize the energy and our intentions with the energy. And before I do that, I actually want to, this is like the actual ceremony that I always do. I'm going to light my intention candle. I use the same candle for every new moon ceremony. And we're going to set our intention. And our intention, I love this lighter. It's so much fun. Our intention this new moon is to purify, to let go of the past, to let go of the energy that is represented by Pluto in Capricorn and the energy represented by Saturn traveling through Capricorn and Aquarius, the two signs that ruled in the last 4 years, which have been so hard. And we are going to embrace closing the door. Pisces is the 12th sign. It's the final sign. It's the final chapter in the hero's journey of the zodiac sign. And we are going to close out the zodiac year with this and say goodbye. Goodbye. Thank you. You have been wonderful guests. It's been a wonderful experience, a wonderful learning experience. I always say wonderful because you're full of wonder when you're going through it, but I wouldn't say it was a good experience necessarily. I think most of us struggled very hard over these, last 4 years, last 15 years of Pluto and Capricorn, and, this last year has been difficult for many. It's been very strange. And we are in a year whose theme I'm calling Freaky Friday vibes, and it is living up to Freaky Friday vibes as we're, talking about aliens a lot and, Chinese spy balloons and shooting things out of the sky that we don't know what they are. It's just so strange and bizarre. But I had such a good laugh about a hobbyist group apparently might have been the balloon over Lake Huron. They pinged in Lake Huron and then they heard about something being shot over there. Over that lake, and then suddenly the hobbyist group was no longer receiving transmissions, and they're like, we think that the United States sunk our balloon. And it maybe cost $12. It's hilarious. Oh my goodness, our world is hilarious, and you have to laugh on the path of the seeker. This is a joyous experience. It's funny. I mean, we come down in these, we go from these unlimited spiritual beings that live forever, that are immortal and capable of anything, an instant manifestation in spirit, the ocean of oneness that is, Pisces represents. We come from that into these little meat bags. And we're here, and oh my God, there's things trying to kill us. And there's it's just like, whoa, things get real for the soul when it comes into physical material reality. But it's also hilarious because it is an illusion. is just an illusion. And I would love to get into how that illusion exists and why it exists. And I have answers for all that, but I'm not going to do that here because my kids are waking up. So we're going to wrap this up to many degrees. So we have our intention candle set. Hopefully you set your intention. Hopefully it is in alignment with mine. Again, when I'm doing this ceremony, I can be a proxy for you. You don't need all these tools. You're experiencing it, but hopefully it inspires you to do your own unique thing, to develop in your own way, and just enjoy the vibe of the collective here. So I'm going to take our candle and I'm going to pop it over here. And so for my grid, I'm starting with Moonstone. It is the stone of the crown chakra. And I don't think I have a flashlight to show you how beautiful this one is. The light in here is so not that great, but it does have a very beautiful effervescent sheen to it. So I picked Moonstone for the crown chakra to connect with the moon and the feminine, which is the Pisces energy. It's so receptive. It's perfect for setting intentions. We're just going to put our little seeds into this watery nook here. And I have Larimar. This is the stone of Lemuria. This particular piece reminds me of a whale's eye because you have this little thing here. And whale is one of my totems. It represents the Akashic records. Lemuria is said to have been the matriarchal counterpart to Atlantis, which was the divine masculine, and said to exist near Hawaii. And so we're calling in, and this particular stone is actually harvested from the ocean by women, I believe, at certain seasons because they can't always get to it. So I have this piece of Larimar here that I love. This is celestite, and it's a celestite cluster. Clusters represent the collective. It's beautiful, beautiful. All these stones are very high vibration that I'm using that are large. And celestite connects you to the divine realm, to the angels, to infinity, which is all the Pisces energy. Move my little grid back a little bit here. And here we have angelite, connecting again with the angels realms and the angelic realms. Absolute unbounded oneness is the realm of the angels, because the angels, when it comes to the one creator, all that is, their will is perfectly in alignment. They are pretty much extensions of thoughts of the one creator, which is what is different between us and them. We have individuality based on our experiences, whereas the angels don't, and they don't desire that for the most part. I'm actually going to pop this into the back here. And here we have a double terminated Tibetan quartz point. It's a little smoky, and smoky quartz is transmutation, and the double termination represents relationships. So very, very high vibration stone. All these stones make my third eye tingle very much. Turquoise is probably the one that triggers me the most when it comes to tingling in my third eye, but these stones are very high up there. And then to bring some grounded energy to this, some earth, because we don't want to float off into oblivion. You know, our purpose here is to have our feet on the ground, be in the physical material reality. And the path of the mystic is not the path of the monk. We are not ascetic. We are in the world. We are doing the work. We are here, and we are not going to go hide in some nook. We're not going to give up the pleasures of life. I'm going to enjoy my coffee to the fullest. We are here to engage and enjoy life in all of its varieties. Not in a destructive way, more in a stoic, which is a movement from the medieval times, balanced way. We always want to have balance. We don't want to go too far or too extreme. And asceticism is extreme. Giving up something is extreme. So we don't want to give up things. We want to enjoy and savor it and appreciate its place in the divine order. And so I'm going to bring in some grounding stones. This one here is brachiated jasper. I worked with this a lot about 2 years ago. During the pandemic, this came up a lot as an oracle stone for me. And is the stone of the phoenix, of rebirth. The red jasper that it is was broken at one point, and agate filled up the crevice. You can actually see the agate. It's the white part. The agate filled up the crevice, giving birth to the stone again. It's reborn. It's forever changed. It forever has that scar. But that scar makes it beautiful and unique. And that's the human experience. Every experience we have leaves a mark on our soul, a line in our Akashic record. And it is what makes us different from all the other souls. And it is what promotes us to react differently to stimulus from all other souls. This is called a Cucera stone. Cucera, or I'm probably saying it wrong, I believe it's Latin. And it means what will be. It's pink opal and it has blue opal. You can mostly see pink and there's a really pretty blue opal piece right there. And this is for acceptance. We need to accept change. Change is scary. I understand that. It doesn't need to be destructive. We are on the path. For all indications, when it comes to prophecy, we are on the path that is the least destructive. And I will get more into that again on the Pluto going into Aquarius video, because I really want to bring the prophecies into it. This is garnet. It is actually red. I forgot my flashlight and I'm running out of time, so it is a red stone. It is very grounding. It's a root chakra stone. I love garnet for connecting in with the earth. It reminds me of like a drop of blood that, just really getting into the ancestry and ancestors, getting to the root of the issues. And then we have snowflake obsidian for the shadow and shadow transmutation. This is the best stone for shadow work. I absolutely love it. The light's kind of getting really funny in here as it gets brighter outside. But I love this stone for shadow work. And whenever we work with the third eye chakra, with absolute oneness, the first thing that comes up is all of our shadows, because we can't have a relationship with the divine until we work through our shadows, until we accept our shadow aspects. So I'm going to put that there. And I'm going to move that. We'll activate it here in a moment, and we're going to get into my ceremony that we're going to do. I need to move things around a bit, and I will be right back. So there's going to be a little break in the video again. We're going to go into the ceremony portion here. I'm going to post this probably as a separate video as well, just for those who want to do the ceremony. We have our grid here, our two symbols, himself and the moon tarot card, which happens to be the card for Pisces, and our Pisces symbol. And we're going to work with the different elements. The grid that we did is the earth element. And I'm going to put our Tibetan singing bowl that we are going to be using for a cleansing ceremony here. For incense, I have Rainforest Incense by him. And I thought this was appropriate since we drew for the oracle card himself, which is the king of the forest. And we are working with Pisces, which is the element of water, so rain seems appropriate. And it has been raining a lot here in Southern California this year, and it is cold. It is so cold. I'm in the covered patio of my house, and it is chilly. It's not insulated out here. The things that you do when you're passionate and you love people. All right. So we're going to light our incense for the element of air. We have our candle going for the element of fire here. This is our intention candle. And let's light our incense here. There we go. Oh, it's not trying to light. There's a lot of moisture in the air out here in the covered patio. And it's like, I am not going to light. It's not conducive to fire right now. Alright, which is so Piscean. It's such a Piscean thing to happen. Alright, so I have our incense going. This smells so good. I also have, for essential oil, I have Summer Boardwalk by Eternal Essences, and it is a coconut blend that just reminds me of the ocean. And since Pisces is the ocean, that is what we're going to work with. I'm actually going to anoint our grid of stones here our Larimar, Garnet, Kyocera for acceptance, double terminated Tibetan quartz for relationships, Moonstone, not of the moon, our snowflake obsidian for shadow work, Celestite for the collective energy, Angelite for the angelic realms, that is the absolute unbounded oneness that is Pisces, and the ocean of unity, and Brecciata Jasper for rising up from all this ending energies, the previous cycles, like a phoenix, reborn, reclaiming our spiritual legacy, being empowered, coming into this with the energy of a phoenix, ready to go to work to complete our transformation. And now for the actual ceremony itself, I have my Tibetan singing bowl here, and we are going to pour water into it for the cleansing ceremony. And we're going to add amethyst, detoxification of the third eye, clear seeing, perception. I have a perfectly round black river stone that I picked up. It's actually from my yard, my backyard here, because this, where I live, used to be a riverbed. It's an ancient riverbed. So we're going to put that in, because anything associated with flowing water is cleansing. And you might hear my husband talking to my daughter at the moment. I think everybody's awake now. And then we have an Apache's Tear obsidian. And I did have two big, huge pieces of obsidian that I included today. I happened to find it in the backyard. There's a whole story behind that, but I'm not going to share that right now because we really need to get done. And to this, I'm going to add a little bit of salt. Now, salt in alchemy is the symbol for the earth itself. It's known to be detoxifying, and especially if you work with Epsom salts. Epsom salts are known for relaxing the muscles. That is scientifically proven. So we're going to add a bit of salt to it to represent the ocean. And now the ceremony itself, we're going to do a little prayer. And, pray to what you consider to be a higher power. To your higher self, if you prefer, if you don't really trust a higher power, which I understand. I know a lot of people have a lot of trust issues in our society, and that is perfectly understandable. So what we're going to do is we're going to dip our hands into the water, and we're going to wash our hands. And as we wash our hands, we're going to say our prayer. And our prayer is, to the highest and greatest good of all involved, may we release the energies of these closing cycles as we are in this new moon of Pisces. We release all the energies. We embrace the new. We embrace what is to come. We close the door on these energies, and we move into the new door that is opening with happy hearts filled with joy and optimism, trusting in the divine order to carry us through to what is meant to be, and aligning ourselves with the will of the one creator, knowing that it is the will of the one creator to let go and to be renewed, like the phoenix rising from the ashes, which is the first process on the alchemical process, is calcination. So, to finish this off, we're going to take the water that we have cast, all that energy of our past, and we're going to raise it to a higher vibration using our Tibetan singing bowl. This is a lower chakra one. So we're bringing that energy up. We're transmuting that energy, all the baggage from that previous cycles, previous moon cycle, previous zodiacal year. We're releasing all this. We're letting it go. And with that, I am done because my eldest daughter is up and calling aloud. And I wish you the best new moon and the best moon cycle. Let's make the most of this, okay?